This episode was originally a live conversation recorded at the Rise Up Summit 2024.
Throughout my entire school career and university career, we were taught to do things always right and perfect. And then once you become an entrepreneur, you have to unlearn this, because then it's all about imperfection, being fast, right? This 80-20 rule. There are mistakes, there is imperfection, and you can only improve over time, and it's okay. And we need to already start teaching that to children.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. If you enjoy listening to our show, make sure to follow the podcast and leave a rating. And now, here's your host, Merle.
Good. Wow, that's a full house. Very nice. I'm very excited to have you here. I hope you can all see also in the back. I'm very excited for this session. Learning curve of entrepreneurship, building a strong skill set. I'm very excited. And before I introduce my panelists, Adam and Lida, I want to tell you quickly, the session is actually supported by Wirtschaftsbildung.ch. So thank you so much. And also to Wirtschaftsbildung for making this session possible. Maybe little introduction or instruction rather. I have a small call to action at the end because we also want to get some data out of this. So at the end of the session, I will share a QR code with all of you that you can scan so we get a better understanding of what you think are important skills to have, what helped you through your journey. And so people also that we can work with it and show people what kind of skill set may or may not need it. So now I'm very excited to jump into this session with Lida and Adam. Fun fact, we also recording this session, these microphones, we're recording them because I want to make a podcast out of this. Little fun fact, no pressure.
So we really need to be good.
You need to be really good. Speak slow, understandable, you know? Oh, that's fine. So let me introduce who I have on stage here. So to my right is Lida Ahmadi, dynamic entrepreneur and corporate venture builder. And you have over a decade of experience scaling startups and developing innovative business models. It's a very long bio, so I'm just extremely impressive, both of you. So I need to read them from my paper. And probably all of you know Felfel, and that is the business that Lida actually sold her last startup to, Snacks. It was acquired by Felfel. You were the co-founder of it, and you led the company from concept to successful acquisition. Now you have a new project that's called Sprout. I'm interested to hear more about this later on as well. You're going to help corporates and SMEs with their food ventures. And also, additionally, you coach. You coach with your experiences, the insights that you have to early stage founders, corporates, and SMEs, from venture building over to business modeling, validation, go-to-market, you name it. And your background is in leading major B2B growth initiatives. And I'm really excited to have you here, to have you with your rucksack of experience and tell us also from your coaching experience, insights into the skill development. And that's actually how we met. We met at Impact Hub, where you are also coaching many of the startups that are at Impact Hub as a member, which is a wonderful asset for all the people that are in our community. And I want to open your introduction with a question, which is, what inspired you to take the leap into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so thank you for this introduction. It was indeed very long, so I'm sorry for that.
Oh,
we're not here to bore people, but for me, I think it started, or I had an influence from family members. I started first with the path when I was studying at the university, and my brother-in-law came and he had this idea of developing an app for sport, basically creating sport activities. And I don't know why he asked me, probably because I was the only one in his network who did, business administration as a study. So I said yes, and we just jumped right into developing this app. We had an offshore team in India. I was, I think, like early 20s. And so this is the first time how I came a little bit the taste of entrepreneurship and building, a digital product. That was 2012, I think. So I really liked it. But I didn't think much of it. So I continued my studies. I mean, by the way, the startup was a disaster, but we learned a lot. And then when I graduated, I thought like I'm going to just take on the traditional path of becoming like a consultant, because everybody was basically doing the same thing after the graduation at Husky. I don't know if we have some of the Husky people here, but they know it's either Big Four or banking. So I did indeed apply for like a consulting job in the beginning. And I even got a job as a consultant. I thought like, this is what I'm going to do after graduation. And I think it was 1 week before I had to start that my brother came and he was like, hey, don't you want to start a business together? And I don't know, like somehow this not knowing, being your own boss and like putting yourself into this unknown was more exciting to me than taking a consultant job. So yeah, since then I'm basically much in this path.
Very inspiring. It sounds really cool. I'm gonna look up that app if there's still some information about it.
You might find some stuff, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, and thank you very much for being here as well. And then next to Lida, we have Adam, who is the co-founder and CEO of Treeless Pack, an ETH Zurich spinoff that focuses on developing bio-based materials to combat plastic pollution. So very important topic as well. Your background is in biomedical engineering, and you've done a lot of research also in tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. So also interesting path to where you're today. You've worked on different projects, including also development of implants. You have a really interesting background, Adam. But what we can see from all of it is you're super passionate about sustainability and making the world a better place in that. And also entrepreneurship. Treeless Pack was founded when exactly?
2023.
2023. So last year. Congrats. And you've also since then participated in initiatives like Mars Challenge Switzerland, Top 100 Startups, and How We Met through the Divigier Award, which you won this year actually, and also the Shine program. So you're in the middle of this entrepreneurial programs here, initiatives there, accelerator this, award here, which is super exciting. And I'm very happy that you made the time also to be here today. And now I want to know from you, what inspired you to take the leap into entrepreneurship?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a really real pleasure to speak to you and share our stories and our own experiences. Your question, Merle, what inspired me was really that I wanted to create my own path. I wanted to also like decide where to go and kind of escape this typically quite strictly defined path within the academia. So for me, I felt the best way to also like work way more dynamically was to work on something that motivates you intrinsically. And I felt like the entrepreneurship ecosystem is so dynamic. You meet so many people. It drives you every single day. You have new challenges. And by working on your own venture, I believe you learn the most, because like what's better than actually taking the responsibility on something. And yeah, I mean, that's really like when you take some sort of risk and the result depends on you, on your actions. That's how you learn the most, because like that's the true experience. Mm-hmm. So that was for me, the spark.
And can you tell us a bit more about the startup and what you do and how you actually came up with this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you already introduced, I was active in the field of tissue engineering, regenerative medicine. That is a field of combining biomaterials and cells. And then the goal is usually, or the target is to act within the biomedical space, for example, to develop, let's say, tissues or tissue-like structures within the lab that can model, specific tissues or organs, let's say skin or bone. You can investigate some drug effects on these kind of organoids, which is absolutely inspiring. But for me, I felt the path is, let's say, a bit too predefined. And I realized at some point that why don't you use the same concepts of, let's say, using living materials where you have some cells, some bacteria in our case now, to, let's say, design the product that you can use. And I felt you can make bigger impact, even a bigger impact than in just the biomedical space, which is more in the industrial applications, the big industrial applications that we are targeting now. So the passion remains the same, but the fields change from more the biomedical, let's say, scope towards more industrial applications.
And where did you meet your co-founder exactly?
Yeah, so that was COVID time, actually. And we started like brainstorming. Some years ago, I was more of a mechanical engineering student. And Patricia has a very strong scope or a very strong focus on biotechnology. So I had, let's say, the initial idea, but we started brainstorming how we could bring this to life. And Patricia, with her very deep knowledge, deep understanding of the space, let's say we could predefine which types of microorganism we can use and further defining the scope of treeless buck.
COVID times also, like for a lot of people, sparked new ideas, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. And then, Lida, can you tell us a bit more? I'm also just curious to know, what do you do now with Sprout? What are you currently doing? What are you focusing on?
A lot of things, but Sprouted is basically a venture I've started a couple of months ago. And what I'm doing with Sprouted is basically combining, my passion for venture building, but with the experience that I had within the food industry, specifically with my last startup, Snacks. And I partner up with corporates, SMEs, but also startups from the food and beverage industry to tackle on the challenges of the food system. So I try to adapt the lean startup methodology and use like a super data-driven approach to turn ideas into food ventures. And so you can call it a venture studio. Maybe some of you are familiar with that concept. It's not a new concept. It already exists, and it gained popularity in the last, I would say, 5 to 7 years. But what I've noticed is that most of the existing studios are solely focusing on industries such as healthcare, insurance, banking, and the food system has been a little bit left out, or the food industry. So I believe that specifically now with the whole, horizon climate issues, the challenges in the food system, this space needs to be innovated, or, we need to put more resources into basically developing the whole food innovation ecosystem. And so this is basically my motivation behind Sprouted, and I hope that it can become one of the solutions. Yeah.
And you told us before about your journey with your brother and the startup that I think you named it horrifically failed or something. I want to understand, talking about skills, when you look back, what were skills back then that you maybe underestimated, and now looking back, think, they would have been crucial to have?
So when I actually started off as an entrepreneur, I thought like entrepreneurship is, more about being creative, being a problem solver, being fast, like taking fast decisions, basically just moving things along and developing, right? And I learned that actually being data-driven and analytical is as important. So from the beginning. And I learned this through joining a venture studio, Striber, back then. That was before Snacks, in 2018, when basically I came across this super factual, data-driven approach of building ventures, right, from scratch. And I understood how important it was, specifically when you start off with an idea and then you go through the problem solution fit. During this phase, what you basically do is you really go deep into the problem understanding mode, right? You need to validate your hypothesis. You need to really look at data. You need to collect data and, be really obsessive with facts. I found myself to be struggling with that because, I was not an analytical person. And I believe that this is important early on, to be data-driven and analytical in order to really do your homework during this problem solution fit so that you avoid building on things that nobody's asking for. So that is the first skill that I would say I underestimated. And the second one, I would not say I underestimated it, but I didn't really think much of it. It's being able to say, like, sales skills. Probably everybody would agree, if you're a CEO, founder of an idea, you basically constantly you're selling. You're selling yourself, you're selling your idea, you're pitching to investors. The next group that you pitch is the first people that will join, your startup, and then potentially you pitch also to first customers. So if you naturally are good in sales, you will have a lot of advantage. I think if you're like somebody who is more introverted, doesn't want to go and approach and talk to people, this is a skill that you just need to commit to, not only as a CEO, but really like as the founder, and then try to build on very early on. Yeah.
So Adam, you were nodding the whole time. And you said it before also that what you like about being an entrepreneur is you learn basically every day. You learn on the job all the time. And for you specifically, I would think it's like a super steep learning curve. Were there any skills where you like really surprised that you had to develop them quickly?
Yes. About the surprising skill. So I was ready for everything, like when you start your own venture, I think, it's going to be like something very challenging. You're going to learn, many, many different skills. But for me, what was surprising, me as a graduate from ETH Zurich, I had to learn how to use a phone to actually make a call. Terrible. I mean, every single day I ask myself, is that the right time to call somebody? Is it okay? I spent 3 minutes asking myself, is it okay to make a call before I make a 1-minute call, right? So like 4 parts is being spent on just like, thinking about those things. And that's, let's say, the surprising part, that I lost some of the social skills while developing my more technical skills. But it comes back. Like during all these kind of discussions. Yeah, you train some other features.
You just mentioned, because since you mentioned academia and studies, during your studies for both of you, were there skills that you were able to use? I mean, for you, probably also the research part, but also like thinking of this is my day-to-day job as an entrepreneur or in my business. Looking back at what you studied, were these things that you can use from your studies? Or was it something that you had to like, you were like, this was not in my curriculum? Whoever wants to start.
Sure. Yeah, I would say, let's say the technical part plays an immense role when it comes to like building trust in talking to whatever stakeholder. It could be convincing a professor at a university to start off a new project. It could be relevant in sales, right? When you have to explain the customer the features your product brings in. Definitely. And I think like ETH provided me with a skill set that goes far beyond the technical aspect. I think there you learn a lot about like resilience, you learn about psychology, you learn, I don't know. Yeah, you get a chance to get yourself better because like everyone else is going to be similar when it comes to, let's say, the performance in the exam, but it's all about like the mental preparation, who's more confident, who loses less time on some sort of mental struggles when you write the exam. Yeah, a lot of the game happens in your head actually, and this is something that's I could take away from my studies, for example.
How about you, Lida?
So I think for me, the university or my studies in business administration provided me with some, like, let's say, foundational basic knowledge about how to structure organization, marketing, sales. I knew what a P&L was. I knew why it mattered, the EBIT, why does it matter, etc. So it did help with the first business, specifically after graduation, to basically navigate yourself and build a little bit and know what it needs. But I think above all, what I learned is also similar to what Adam said, is this resilience, because you go through a lot of learning and exams, stress. So our university is really known for having a lot of group works, like seminar works, and then also this early on already provided some experience in how to manage yourself within a group and then work on something together and then pitch it as well. So we had tons of presentations at the university as well, where we would also get graded for it. So I think these things, these skills, they helped also with the first time entrepreneurship, then pitching and, building and having a little bit resilience and determination. And the university is also highly competitive. That helps as well. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you need to be competitive as well. You need to always have, a little bit look out of what is happening with the competitors, what is happening in the market. So you kind of learn this as well. I mean, it can have its good sides or bad sides when you want to analyze it, but that is also something that I think I learned from the uni. Yeah.
And I would like to know also, like, as an action or something people could take away, what are like some strategies that you have in order to develop skills? I mean, you said, for example, calling people, which I hate. So I get it. What are like some strategies that you use, Adam, for you now specifically also to develop these kind of skills where, these are difficult at the moment?
I don't think there is really a strategy. I don't know what Lida think about that. To me, it's more about the adaptation. Like, you don't want to learn skills that you never apply. I think it's like you have to go out somewhere, test something, and you realize, okay, that skill, I could have done something better. So this is like a relevant skill you need. Like when you go out here, you need to practice, like public speaking, pitching. So I think it's more about like the current need, and you need to adapt your skills. So you're gonna need different skills now, as in 5 to 10 years, where you're gonna be in a different position. I think, like, for example, also when talking about leadership, right now, like, we're a small team, so you take a completely different role as you might take on in, I don't know, 3-4 years time. Also, there are different like types of leadership, and I think also, like, to this, a skill is to change your leadership style, and by leadership I mean it's not just being the authority kind of, like the CEO, but it's adapting your skill set, your behaviors to the situation you're facing, right? You can be more of a person with the authority. You can then, in a different situation, be more inspirational. You can also, I don't know, be the leader that steps back and empowers others, that sees the potential of, activating other people. So, like, I think this is pretty much linked to also like psychology, and we have to stay agile in our minds. And I think this is like the way to go.
So probably also a question of being able to reflect on where you're at the moment, what it is that you need, going out there, doing it, reflecting. Is it good enough yet? Yes or no? What do I need to change in that sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's constant like iterations and training of the skills you need.
And Lida, for you, because you see as a mentor, also you see many early stage startups, founders generally, is there like a common thread or things that you see in terms of skill sets where you feel like, this is something that always pops up? I wouldn't even call it a gap, but more like, things that pop up all the time that are like nagging these people that you want to help them with. Is there something that you see, and how do you go about it?
So it's again about this, what I said in the beginning, this really the analytical part of data drivenness, because I think what people are good, our founders are good at, is really the building, the being creative and the being the doers. And where I see the most struggle is specifically in the beginning of the life cycle of a startup, right? When you start off with the idea and you really build your hypothesis around the problem and the pain points and, what your customer really need. And this is where out of, I would say, even 8 out of 10 people I send back and tell them, do your problem, validation better, because there is still a lot missing and you have not spent enough time to understand it and you already jumped into the building. So this is the first thing, or, that I keep seeing. And the second thing, which is also related to that issue, is this obsessive focus on the customer, right? Because what we do, or what we tend as founders, as humans, we're biased. We focus on the things that, what we think people want or what is important. But it's super hard to basically step out of your bias, listen what is actually the market or the customers telling you. And I've been quoting this book like since forever. It's my favorite book, Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. Maybe you heard about that. So he speaks about this cognitive biases that we have, right? And particularly this confirmation bias that we have. And this is also something that we do when we start to basically gather the data, to validate a hypothesis. We collect the data that is basically confirming us. So here, what matters is to really go and seek for the things that are not validating us, that is contradicting, that is challenging us. So I think this is where I keep also pushing the mentees to listen to the people who say, oh, we're not going to do this or we're not going to buy it, because that's when you actually stop listening to your gut feeling and start taking decision based on facts and data. Yeah.
Hello, listeners. We want to hear from you now. Please just take a minute to complete our survey on entrepreneurial skills. Click the link in the description below to share your thoughts. Thank you very much for helping us.
I think it's super valuable also that you can tell these mentees, and you can assess it, you see where they're at, and you can give them sort of a guideline. I feel like about mentorship, this is something wonderful, and you have a person that you trust. Can you give us an example where you see that mentorship had made a significant difference for either your mentees and also from your perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a lot of examples, but I can maybe give an example from Snacks, my last startup, where I've, especially also in the beginning, observed or noticed a little bit that most of the team members, they are a little bit hesitant in, setting smart goals or tight and ambitious deadlines for different reasons, but mostly also because they were also a little bit, scared to step out of their comfort zone and to take risks. So I would then, start implementing different frameworks, but also pushing them a little bit out of their comfort zone to dare to be more confident in setting deadlines that are ambitious. And I think towards the end, I had never again to challenge any goal anymore. So everybody was setting their own smart goals. Everybody was setting their own deadlines. And yeah, it worked. So this is where I really, really convinced that mentorship and coaching is a good path to develop a new skill.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, mentorship is super important at each stage of life. I remember at school, I was lucky enough to be part of a program where I could learn from, let's say, senior students at that time point, right? So I could make, let's say, smarter choices for my studies, for what I want to do next. At the university, I missed that part very much. I was lacking some mentorship. But then I saw when I was already an alumnus of ETH, they introduced a mentorship program, and I acted as a mentor to younger students that joined the ETH environment. So that was, I think, very helpful for them, also for me, because I could give something back. Now as an entrepreneur, I think there is a lot of mentorship out there, and basically anyone can be a mentor. I think that there's a lot of different startup accelerators that help with a broad network of mentors, of coaches. InnoSwiss, which is the innovation agency here in Switzerland also. And then you can basically choose, depending on the needs you have right now, the right mentorship, which I think, there's nothing that is missing, in my opinion, starting from support in the business side, through, let's say, patent attorneys, through, people that deal with branding, technology development. There's literally everything. And I think this is covered so well in Switzerland.
And you just touched upon something that I thought was super interesting, because that's school. And I always wonder, what can we do to also teach young students, young pupils in an early age already, these skills that are not only important for entrepreneurship, they're important in life, to be able to reflect, to be able to adapt, to understand what's out there, what people around me need, and how I can deliver maybe, or how I can support them. Is there anything, I mean, you said the program, for example, but is there something in school that you would have liked to see in that, I don't know if you going back in school time, is there anything now that you think about where you're like, oh, I would have loved to have that in school?
Yeah, I think that what you already like mentioned a little bit, the skill of critical thinking. I would have loved to see that in school, or already like learn in school, and the real life problem solving and pivoting. I think we should teach in school already, how to basically stay adaptable, teach resilience, but also how you can learn from mistakes, and failure is okay. Because I remember, throughout my entire school career and university career, we were taught to do things always right and perfect. And then once you become an entrepreneur, you have to unlearn this, because then it's all about imperfection, being fast, right? This 80-20 rule. And this is also something that I've encountered within my team, because everybody was really focused on doing things perfectly, like perfect slides, and I can only publish something when it's done and it's done right, because this is how the system is, right, and how we're raised and educated. And I think, but one really, really crucial thing in life is there are mistakes, there is imperfection, and you can only improve over time, and it's okay. And we need to already start teaching that to children, not to become like perfect, but just to dare to risk mistakes, but learn and grow, and then basically pivot. Yeah.
And it's also very human, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Adam, anything that you would like to add from your days back in school?
I was, I think, lucky enough to be in a school that taught us, critical thinking, as you, Lida, mentioned. I had a good comparison to other schools that had a program that taught them just like hard facts, learning things by heart, but not really reflecting about the causes behind the actions. Like when you learn about the history, you want to know why things happened, and not that they happened without a reason, right? Right. And I think this goes further, like this really goes further. And I think that's a skill that is super relevant for entrepreneurship as well, like empathy. Like you have to listen, and you want to understand why things happen, why somebody acts the way he or she acts. And I mean, this relates to the customer, this relates to investors, this relates to basically every aspect of our life. Like we want to be, have this empathy for the other person. Then we can solve the problem, because we find out about the real problem. Like we find out why somebody doesn't want to purchase something. We find about his issue that he wants to solve. So empathy is super important. And I think that's a skill that is, let's say, universal and helps a lot in daily life and entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very well said. And I also want to give the audience some time to ask questions. So I'm going to finish with asking each one of you one question to end up. So Adam, what is like the one piece of advice from everything that we already said that you would like to give to an aspiring entrepreneur, or to somebody that just started out?
Yeah, take the risk. We have to learn to take risks. We have to deal with failure, and don't treat it as, something dangerous, but treat it more as an opportunity. Embrace the challenge. See it as a privilege to learn, to meet new people, it's in the end, like you learn something from all the challenges. So don't be afraid of failing.
Very nice. And Lida, for you, also with your experience, what is something that you really want the audience to take away today?
So in relation to skill development, I think I want to just share my biggest learning in that area is, skill development starts with feedback. So for me, I understood this very late. I would say in my journey, I started to gather feedback and ask people for feedback to improve on certain areas very late. But once I've started doing this, I've seen the biggest development as an entrepreneur during that phase where I actually got the feedback. So no matter if it's, your life partner or your friends or your co-founders, advisory board, always ask for feedback. Don't be afraid of criticism feedback, because this is how you basically can grow as a person, but also in your skill set. This is how you can understand where you need to invest. Yeah, and you basically have to accept that feedback or getting feedback is the first step or a tool to basically develop your skills.
At this point already, a big thank you to the both of you for being here, for taking the time and for sharing your insights. And I would like to give the opportunity also to everyone in the audience. We can take a few questions if you're interested or if you would like to know anything from the two up here.
Hi, thanks to the both of you. I have one question for the both of you. It's related to innovation. So I feel like in the startup world, there is like this race for innovation, like what's the next thing? What's the next breakthrough innovation in whatever sector? And I was thinking that, yeah, like the startups that bring real breakthrough innovation are maybe the 10%, if any. And the 90% would bring incremental innovation rather to whatever field they are in. So my question is, to those 90% that only bring an incremental innovation into their field, what are the key success factors, differentiators in order to eventually be successful and be part of the 1% successful ventures?
Super cool question. So thank you for that. Very important as well. So, I can maybe just simplify it by saying that what is entrepreneurship? Like, what kind of startups are basically succeeding? And I usually say it's not about the idea/innovation. It's more about the execution. So what you say, incremental, doing things and doing it better. And so this is the commitment that you as a founder, no matter whether you're working on something groundbreaking or doing something better than the competition, you need to commit to this. You need to just be good at the execution. And that's a big word, but it comes with a lot of different aspects into it, right? You need to be fast. You need to have a competitive edge. You need to do something better than the rest out there, but be it the competition or, other solutions that are out there. So find that thing that, makes your business different, be it you have competitive advantage corporation, you have a lot of money, whatever it is, you have the best team, that could be enough for you to succeed. So there is not one answer, but basically execution and how you should execute.
I would answer a bit differently, that it goes back to the definition of innovation. I think the word is a bit misused today. I think we should somehow differentiate between novelty and innovation. Like you can have these 90% that are novel, but are not innovative. For me, what makes a thing innovative, if a novelty has an impact on a mass scale, and then we can call it an innovation. And then, in the past, you use this innovative solution to solve a big problem, and then it becomes super popular. But if it doesn't reach that scale, it's a novelty. Maybe it's just scientifically novel, but it didn't make it to the market, right? It didn't reach the target customer, for example. That's why for me, it wouldn't be innovative. Because, for example, you don't pay attention to the market, to the customer needs, and how you bring it there.
Do we have another question?
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm currently actually a student also in ETH. So I have a question, I feel very confident when it comes to technical stuff. Yeah, but I'm wondering, do you have any advice on developing some soft skills? For example, like how we prepare to collaborate with people from other areas, like legal management. Yeah. Do you have any advice, especially for students? Thank you so much.
I think when it comes to doing things that is, out of your comfort zone, it always is hard. So the only advice I can give you is put yourself out of the comfort zone and do it, because this is how you learn and this is how you basically also grow, right? As a person. So you're the technical founder, you say, and you basically, and this is normal because a lot of, late startups, they start with somebody who's scientific, who's very technological, and you have to basically, as the founder, develop as well the other skills that is needed that are a little bit softer, such as sales and marketing, etc. And there is a lot online nowadays. I mean, we live in an age of information, right? You can find everything online. There's tutorials how to do it. And this is the easy part. So you can educate yourself on that. And once you have the theoretical knowledge, then it comes to really applying it. And that's something that you have to basically agree within yourself and with yourself and be comfortable applying it, approaching people and, building those partnerships that you need to.
Should I add something? Yeah, I mean...
You can if you want to.
Well, my advice is like learning by doing gives the biggest results. That's maybe something that I should have mentioned before. A thing I would have liked to see at school would be to have some advice, some class on, how do I start a small business? Like you don't have to start big, but if you even think of a small business, I don't know, even tutoring, like younger students, teaching how to play piano, whatever. Like you also have to go through some accounting if you want to do it legally. Like you learn other things. You learn how to use your phone. Maybe you have to pick up, like to somebody that is interested in taking the class with you. Take a vehicle and get in on that vehicle and try it out.
Maybe one tip that I use when I want to develop a new skill. So this is for me, because I'm not a fan of online courses and certification, but I try to find the one person in my network who does this skill specifically good, like particularly good, and that I admire them for. So then I reach out to them and then I interview them and I ask them 1 million of questions to really understand how did they master the skills, how did they build it, and that helps actually. That's for me a little bit like a shortcut of how to fast, learn a new skill. And I'm sure, you can find people in your network, or you ask friends to connect you and you look for them even online and you reach out.
Thank you so much, both, for answering the questions as well. Of course, you can find them until the end of the day. Yes. No getting out of the apero. And as I mentioned, I have a small favor to ask you. So if you scan this QR code, you will get to a Google Forms. You don't have to fill it out now, but please scan it so you have it. And then we would be super, super happy and would very much appreciate it if you would fill out the survey. May take 5 minutes or so. So we also have some data that we can use to, see what kind of skills are important. How can we develop them? How can we create initiatives and programs that help develop entrepreneurial skills? And with that, thank you so much, you two. Big applause for the both of you and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Hello, listeners. We want to hear from you now. Please just take a minute to complete our survey on entrepreneurial skills. Click the link in the description below to share your thoughts. Thank you very much for helping us.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, you can support us by rating our show on Apple Podcasts. This way, we can reach an ever-growing number of aspiring entrepreneurs.